Have you ever caught yourself Googling what every business website needs to find all those PDFs and blog posts with those never ending lists of things that you supposedly need on your business website? Well, here's the thing. I believe that many of those so called website essentials are actually doing nothing for your bottom line. Today, I want to walk you through 7 website features that I've come up with that you probably have been told that you absolutely need, and I'm going to give you some simpler, more effective alternatives that actually can convert your visitors into clients. Because here's the truth, you shouldn't have to work more to earn more in your business. Welcome to Website Design Made Simple, the podcast for busy small business owners who want a high-performing website that converts and sells their offers, even while they're sleeping. Because you deserve to have a strategic and beautiful website that truly represents your brand and positions you as the expert that you are. I'm your host, Jenny B, web designer and creative director at Jenny B Designs, where we believe that your website is the one thing that makes you sales and builds your brand at the same time. Ready to say goodbye to a website that you're embarrassed to share? And hello to a money-making, personality-packed powerhouse? Let's head into today's episode. Welcome back to the pod. I'm so happy to have you here. Quick intro, if we haven't already met, I am Jenny. I own Jenny B Designs. We are a brand and web design studio. And my passion in life is helping small business owners just like you design a beautiful and effective website that is rooted in marketing strategy, truly attracts your ideal clients, and encourages people to take the next step with you and makes you money. Let's start with the purpose of a money-making website. I talk about this all the time. What makes a website effective? I think that there are 4 specific things that you want to keep in mind as you are creating your website or as you are looking at a website that's already been created. The first one is that I think you need a straightforward user path. If you go back to episode 60, Getting Clear on Your Website's Customer Journey, I share about how you want to make sure your website is set up to send people on the path to take the next step with you, whatever that step might be, depending on the goal of your website. For example, if you are a photographer and you offer a free consultation call prior to someone booking with you for that session, the path on your website is leading people to that contact form where they're going to fill out that form and book that call with you. Everything on your website needs to align with this user journey and take people to that end goal of getting to the contact page. That's number 1. The second thing that you need is strategic calls to action. You need to have a button that is guiding people to get to that contact page and taking them on that journey, making sure that every other section at least has a button driving people to take the next step in your process. So having a straightforward user pathway and having strategic calls to action. The third thing is your messaging. Clear communicating your value, what makes you unique, and how can you solve your potential clients' problems. And then finally, you need to build trust and credibility. And this comes in the form of your messaging that builds trust and credibility. It's also your testimonials, social proof. If you've been accredited by certain associations, having badges or logos of businesses that you've worked with, these all lend to build that trust and credibility. Having those 4 things is really what's going to create an effective website. Now, to go along with that, let's talk about the 7 things that I find are on a lot of lists that you must have on your small business website. And I don't think that they really push the needle forward. And some of them may actually hinder the user journey of someone taking that next step with you. So let's talk about the first one. The first must-have is a website slider or carousel. And I'm going to preface this by saying I am seeing it less and less, and it makes me so happy. But I see this a lot in the nonprofit industry and on websites that were built a few years ago. A long time ago, sliders and carousels, which to define that is when you land on someone's homepage and pictures slide across the screen. Different pictures, I must say, slide across with different words. That's called a slider or a carousel. And the reality is that only about 1% of visitors click on these slides beyond the first one. They are distracting and they create decision fatigue and they hinder your message because someone is trying to sit there and watch these words and this button and the images go through. And it's scrolling to the next one and to the next one. It's very distracting. and they can cause people to have that decision fatigue. What a better option is to have a single powerful hero section, one single image, one single video with a clear message and a call to action. That is much more effective than having that slider or carousel on your homepage. That's the first one that I see on a lot of lists that really shouldn't be there. Number 2 is complex navigation menus. They are really popular because I feel as though we as business owners want to share everything with our potential client. We want to make sure that everything that they need is at their fingertips. And this translates to your navigation menu. But the reality is most visitors on your website only use 2 to 3 main navigation items. And we want to avoid having excessive options because when you have too many options, people can't decide what to do and they don't make a decision, and sometimes they end up just leaving. A better option than having everything that you can have accessible to someone when they land on your website in that complex navigation menu is to have a streamlined navigation that just focuses on those key pages that drive the conversions. And then use internal linking, those call to action buttons throughout your website instead of adding all these additional options up in your top navigation. If you can get it down to 5 items or less, sometimes even 3 or less, that's phenomenal. Maybe an about, a services, and a contact. Just the main actions that you want someone to take on your website. When you are designing, or if you have your website, look at your navigation menu and try to make it as simple as possible. Number 3 is using blog categories and tags on your archives. This goes back to blog posts from a long time ago. You probably can picture the websites that I'm talking about that have been blogging for a very long time, and they have all different categories. Let's go back to that photographer example. Maybe you had some newborn shots, and then you worked with some toddlers, and then maybe you did family sessions, and you used categories and tags to tag these blog posts as such. What happens is that when someone goes to your blog post archive, they can find these categories based on what you have labeled them. If someone wants to see all your newborn photos and the blog posts that relate to that, then they can just click on newborn and then they will see everything that comes through there. What I have found is that when I look at the analytics, the data from the different websites that I have designed, and this goes to small blogs on small service-based business websites to larger blogs that could sometimes have up to 100 different posts. People really Quick question. Are you frustrated with your website? Not sure why it isn't converting? I would love to help. That's why I offer my website coaching calls. In just 50 minutes, we'll uncover what's holding your site back and create a plan to fix it. Whether you need help with design, content, or strategy, I'll give you the clear steps to move forward. Click the link in the show notes to book your coaching call today, and let's make your website your best marketing tool. Now back to the episode. Use these categories and these archives. And what I see is that they add this extra level of complexity without really adding that conversion value. And most visitors actually just find your content through looking at your blog archives and going through directly, or through search, through your Google search. Someone looks for this term and then the blog post comes up, and that's how they get into that blog post. I like to keep things as simple as possible. If you're going to have a blog, then go through and post your blog posts, and don't worry about these categories and these tags and these archives. Keep it really simple. And if you have a blog post that is doing really well, or you think that a lot of people might like, then consider adding a related post to the bottom of your actual blog post. So when someone is reading that post, they can see at the bottom some other articles that they might really like to read. Just having a simple search function for people to access your content is probably best, instead of needing to rely on these categories and tags. You want as simple an organization as possible on your blog. Okay, number 4 is those generic catch-all contact fields that you see on people's contact pages. I think that a lot of these come with website templates, and then sometimes people just build them based on the advice that they read online. They usually have fields like first name, last name, email, phone number, company, how did you hear about us, what services you're interested in, and then that massive text box at the bottom. Everyone has them because somewhere along our business journey, we are told we need to collect as much information as possible from our potential clients. The more we know, the better we can qualify them, right? But here's the thing. For every field that you add to your contact form, you are actually losing potential clients. You want to be as simple as possible, and you want to be concise with your forms. Not to mention that having a long form on your contact page is not a good experience, especially when someone is coming to you from their mobile phone. And, most likely it's probably over 60% of your traffic. So what is the better alternative? When you make these changes, I have seen conversion rates basically double. You want to cut down on your form to the absolute essentials. It's probably name, email, maybe one qualifying question if you need, and that's it. And everything else can be gathered on your follow-up conversation. I actually believe that you shouldn't even use a form on your website. If you go back to episode 49, I will tell you why. I believe that if someone is reaching out to you and the first step is to have a consultation call in your process, you should actually just have your scheduler instead of having someone fill out the form. You're removing that friction for them to take the next step with you, and they are able to book that appointment, that call with you immediately. And they don't have to fill out a form and wait for you to get back to them. But if you do have a form on your website, then you want to keep it as simple as possible. And when you do that, you will have more people actually taking the time to fill out that form, and you will have more potential clients to work with. Number 5 is social media icons on your website. We all want to be found on social media, and all the advice says share where you're active, where someone can connect with you more. They can have that conversation. Social media is fun. It's a lot of fun, actually. I could spend all day on TikTok, which I probably shouldn't. A lot of website templates and a lot of advice says make sure you share where you're on social media with people who come to your website. But the reality is, when you have your social media icons in the header of your website or anywhere before they get to the bottom of your website, you're just sending your visitors away from your site. You're truly distracting from that primary user journey. Remember, you're trying to send everyone to your contact page or your buy page, whatever your overall goal is. And when you have those social media icons up at the header of your website because you were told that you should be sharing where you are besides your website where they can connect with you on social media, you're just sending all your links over to social where they are probably going to end up in a black hole like me and just spend the rest of the day scrolling and never come back to your website. What you want to think of doing instead is making sure that you have your social icons in your website, but in the footer. You could also think about embedding the content directly on your site if you want to, that doesn't link out to that social media site. What I mean by this, I work with a lot of photographers, interior designers, people who have really beautiful social media feeds, and they have a lot of work there. And sometimes they like to share it on their website because they want to share the new posts and not have the need to update their website all the time. I think that it's perfectly acceptable to have that on your website, but closer to the footer, and don't have it link over to your social media. Making sure that you're using your social media icons strategically throughout your website. Number 6, stock photos and stock photo people. We have been told, and if you read anything from the advice that you are sent to, that your website visitors need to make an emotional connection with you as a business owner. And how do they do that? With imagery and with imagery of people. People are attracted to other people. This is how you make the emotional connection on your website, by having photos of people or having photos of yourself. But when you add a obvious stock photo, what it does is actually reduce your authenticity, and it reduces that trust. And it fails to differentiate your brand from any other brand. And people tend to not have an emotional connection and trust you a little bit less. I believe that the advice is correct. You need to have images of people on your website to build that connection, but you want to do it through authentic photography, images of you, images of your team. If you don't want to have photos of you or photos of your team, then think about using possibly the backs of people's heads, using their hands. You could stage some brand photos, and you can write in a notebook and use your hands, or maybe grab from, nose down, things like that, so that you can have a way to create that emotional connection, but it's not just a stock photo. Stock photos actually cost you credibility. when you're thinking about photos, think about photos with people, like the advice says, but you want real people. Even if they're not perfect, they convert so much better. Freebie without any strategy behind it. And number 7, finally, is those irresistible freebies, like I talk about, those PDFs without any strategy behind them. They're really popular. A lot of advice many years ago, and what I always share as well, is that you need to have an opt-in. You need to have a way for someone who comes to your website to get on your email list, to continue the conversation with them, to build that know, like, and trust factor. Because one day they might have a problem that you can solve. And typically, I think the stat is 96% of people who visit your website aren't ready to purchase. And if they come to your website and they leave, it is very likely that they will never return again. Capturing someone's email address allows you to continue that conversation. This is an important piece of your website. However, when you read advice, they say you need some kind of PDF. And so someone just creates a PDF, puts it up there, and hopes that their potential client, their visitor, will download the PDF and get into their email marketing system. But what this does is that when you create something without strategy behind it, it's like giving a gift that someone doesn't really want. And they get it and they open it, and it's just a PDF that actually, potentially, they never even open. But if they open it, they really don't like it. If you're going to choose a PDF, make sure you have strategy. Do people actually want this? Is it going to give them the result that they need to get? I like to keep things simple, give someone immediate results, something that they can take action on, and see a change with it. Think about what you can create. Perhaps instead of having a download, it is an email sequence. And you would share with them over the next 3 emails a tip a day, something like that. Or perhaps it's keeping people on your site even longer. Instead of having a PDF, perhaps you have them give their email address and then you send them to a page on your website that they can learn a little bit more, dive deeper into the topic that you're talking about. Think about what is it that your freebie is, and do you have a strategy behind it? And a PDF is absolutely fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I think that you need to have a strategy behind every irresistible freebie that you have on your website. Those were my 7 items that I see a lot online that people say you must have on your website, but truthfully, your visitors don't actually use. And if you kind of put these to the wayside, then you can take a lot of things off your to-do list. I want you to look at your website, the current website that you have right now. Think about these features that I just shared with you. Are they, if you have them, are they working for you, or are they there just because someone told you they should be? And if you're looking at your website and you don't even know where to start, I have definitely got your back. Sometimes you just need a professional set of eyes to look at your website, tell you exactly what's working and what's not, and what to do about it. And that is exactly what we do in my website growth audit. If that's something that you're interested in, you can check the show notes and click the link to book one of those today. Your website should be your hardest working employee, bringing in those leads and making you sales while you sleep. Keep that in mind as you look at your website and go through the list of things that perhaps you don't actually have to have on your website. I'll talk to you next time. And that wraps up another episode of Website Design Made Simple. I hope you found the insights shared in this episode valuable and takes you one step closer to creating a website that attracts more of your ideal clients and builds your brand. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a minute to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or a rating on Spotify. Your review will help us reach more small business owners like you who are ready to make more money with their website. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.